All right, as guinea pigs for our new experience here at the museum called Lunch, how was it? All right, so we'd like to get the program started, and to help me do that, I'd like to bring up the curator of the Cradle Aviation Museum, Josh Stock.
Well, thank you all for coming today. Really, this is great. Great to see you all. Our first honoree today is Robert Smiley. A naval fighter pilot since the end of World War II, Bob first flew Grumman F-8 Bearcats and early jets before entering Navy Test Pilot School, graduating in 1952. He served as an exchange officer with the British Royal Navy, flying de Havilland Sea Venoms in 1953 and 54. He then accepted a position as an engineering test pilot with Grumman Aircraft in 1955. He participated in the F-9F Cougar, F-11F Tiger, and Gulfstream I flight test programs through the 1950s. He performed the first flight of the A-2F, later known as the A-6A Intruder, in 1960, before joining the Apollo Lunar Module program at Grumman as a consulting pilot in 1962. As a consulting pilot, Bob worked on developing and refining the physical layout of the lunar module cockpit. Later, he joined the corporate Gulfstream II program, and he performed the aircraft's first flight in 1966. In 1967, he was appointed chief test pilot for Grumman, and in 1970, he performed the first flight of the F-14A Tomcat, the greatest naval fighter ever produced. But we're not biased. Bob also holds the distinction of being the first crew to ever eject from an F-14 when on its second flight it experienced a total hydraulic failure while on approach to the Calverton runway. He later served as Director of Flight Operations for Gulfstream Aerospace Corporation. Bob passed away in Florida in 2012 at the age of 85. And coming up to accept the award and say a few words, hopefully, is his wife, Sally.
Jim White, if you could come up for some photos.
Come on up here. Cheesecake on my mom.
Oh, fabulous, yeah. That's, oh.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. Carol, thank you so much, because it's quite an honor for all of you who are left who knew Bob, and all of those who have heard about Bob. He was the real deal, probably the most special person that ever lived, ever. And I think you can agree with me if you knew him. I have prepared a short little story about how I met Bob, but I see now that this is not quite the audience, because it goes back to Bob Hall, who was the vice president of Grumman thousands of years ago. But it only started with a sailing boat, because people who don't know Bob well, they knew how much he loved sailing. And he flew down to Bermuda when Bob Hall had raced his boat down to Bermuda in the 1954 Bermuda race. And Bob Hall asked Bob to fly down and then fly back and help him sail the boat back. So while Bob was down at Bermuda, he had the misfortune or great luck, it's hard to really say, to sit next to my mother at a dinner party. Well, my mother was always known as La Pêcheuse, the fisherwoman. We were three girls. We were all gorgeous when we were young. And it didn't matter what or where my mother said, "Have I got a daughter for you?" Well, as his dinner partner, "Have I got a daughter for you?" Well, the story goes on and on. It's very dull, but we were married in 1965, and that was like 1964. Did I say 54? It was 64. So a year later, after I met daughter. Anyway, it was wonderful living with Bob through all of the years of the test flights, the F-14. we lived out on Long Island and St. James, and of course, Bob having been doing the LEM program, the astronauts used to all come to the house all the time. Neil came to the house. Neil Armstrong, of course, was a naval midshipman with Bob back in the day, and so most people don't know that. But I have a picture of Neil at the house holding my little baby Robert. It was years before he was selected to go to the moon. So, you know, it's just this life that we led was full of fun and charm and wonderful people, and we traveled a lot. And during the Gulf Stream years, we traveled all over the world, and I grew up in the U.S. Navy. My father was a naval officer, and we traveled a lot as children, lived in France and Turkey, and my gosh, all over the world. So Bob and I were destined to meet, and indeed we did, and spent a wonderful time, great life together, a lot of fun, have two beautiful children who live up in California who miss their father more than even I can mention at the moment. But I want to thank everyone here who knew and loved Bob, and thank you all for coming today. It's such a beautiful, beautiful ceremony, shall we say, a luncheon. So thank you so much again, and God bless.
Thank you very much. That was great. Our next honoree is David Windmiller. Long Island's own David Windmiller grew up in Brooklyn and Queens and started in the retail photo business as a teenager. Dave learned to fly at Zahns Airport in Amityville starting at age 14. To get to Zahns, he would have to leave Brooklyn at 4 a.m., taking the bus, subway, and LIRR to get to the airport. An intense interest in aerobatics, beginning with unofficial aerobatics in Piper Cub while still a teenager, led to years of training, and he first entered competitions on the world level starting in 1995, and he earned a spot on the U.S. aerobatic team in 1999 and became a top finalist at the World Aerobatic Championships in France in 2000. Now retired from professional competitions, Dave still performs aerobatic demonstrations annually at the Jones Beach Air Show. He currently operates an advanced aviation safety program at Republic Airport. To date, Dave has logged over 24,000 hours in land and seaplanes, gliders, and helicopters, and is an FAA-designated pilot examiner and flight instructor for both airplanes and helicopters. He still flies nearly every day of the year for business or pleasure, as well as being a pilot for News 12. Now running a successful real estate business, he is the proud father of 5 and reports an amazingly supportive wife. Dave?
I always thought it was only old people who had to stand up on stage and give speeches. I guess I'm old. It's a real honor to be here, Carol, Andy, and the whole crew. I really appreciate this honor. I mean it. I'm not sure why I fell in love with aviation, but it happened. I wanted to fly from as far back as I can remember. I got a ride in a Mooney when I was with a dad's friend when I was about 10 years old, and it clicked and it never left. For me, flying was forbidden by my father. He was very afraid of me flying, and he forbid me to do so. And he was German. He was stricter than the rules to the guards at the Buckingham Palace. I grew up in Brooklyn in a park called Mill Basin, a hidden community in South Brooklyn. 14, I worked for my dad in construction after school every day. I delivered bagels on the weekend, and my family paid for everything outside of food and clothing yourself. There was practically no real transportation from Mill Basin. There was a private bus company called Pioneer Bus Company. It went into the area. On weekends, they had about 3 buses a day. They went to the Kings Highway subway station. I had a bagel delivery route on a bicycle, so in order to fly, I would leave my house 4 o'clock in the morning, take the bus, the subway, to Brooklyn Academy of Music, the Long Island Railroad, to Jamaica, switch trains, another train to Babylon, and then car service. That's what we used to use before Uber. Zion's Airport, and they opened up at 8 o'clock. I would lay out whatever money I had for me, and there was a gentleman named Ed Lyons that was there, and we would literally bargain for how long I could fly for. It was 5-minute increments, and sometimes we get 5 minutes for free. 35 minutes, maximum 55 minutes for my flight, and then I'd make the same trip back in time, so I'd be home by noon, and then I had a friend that would kind of do my route in life with me and tell my father that I was with him delivering babies. I told my parents that I was flying on January 6, 1980. Sorry. The reason was it was the day before my birthday. I wanted to solo my birthday, and missing school was equivalent to the death penalty in my house. I needed my mom to drive me to Amityville so I wouldn't miss school, and she did. The saddest part is that my dad was on flight entry. Sorry. And he never got to see me fly. My start in aerobatics is an interesting story, pretty funny now. And at the time it wasn't. 6 months before my 17th birthday, I was, Zons had closed. I was flying out of an airport called Bayport, and there was a lady named Heidi that owned a flight school there. And I was trying to kill time, and I had very little money, so I decided to start flying a private pilot for $17 an hour. My instructor was really good. We went out 45 minutes, and he said, "You're good to go." So I was ready to have him leave the plane. He said, "No, I can't let you go in 45 minutes. We have to put an hour in, or Heidi's going to kill him." So for the next 15 minutes, in a Cub 40627, he took me out and started playing around. 1,500 feet, towed the airplane down. 90, 100 miles an hour, felt like the wings were going to rip off, and he did a loop. So I said, "My turn." He's like, "Not happening. 15 minutes off, let's go back." So we went back. So we landed, pushed the airplane up to the fuel pump. Used to be at the south end of the field. Used to be 2 runways at Bayport, for those who don't know. And filled the airplane up with fuel. Signed my logbook. I didn't have a license, so he said, "Good to go. You gonna do some landings?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." Nope. He hand-propped the airplane, got in, went out, and went to do a loop. Didn't go somewhere. So I dove down and did everything he did, exactly like he did it. And I started the loop, and I got to the top. It was a bad seat. Got stuck upside down, negative G airplane from 1941. I don't think it's ever been upside down. And all the dirt comes and hits me in the face. Engine shuts off, oil's pouring out the breather, fuel's coming out, a little dippy stick in the front. Prop stopped, and I'm like, "Oh boy, this is not good." I'm hanging from the seatbelt, feet underneath the dashboard. And eventually I got the nose over, plane started heading downhill. Started accelerating, prop started moving, smoke coming out, engine came back to life. I went back to the airport, landed, pulled up by the fuel pump, and this guy just walked up and was just laughing. I'm pumping oil and fuel and whatever, and he's just shaking his head, goes like, I said, "Could you shut up, please, put fuel in the plane, I'm going back out." So anyway, I did my first loop, and it stopped. I was lucky enough to get my license from one of Long Island's greatest, Edwin Lyons. I believe I was the last flight test he ever gave. In '87, I was in business. I was lucky enough to afford a new pitch special. SQD 271 Delta Whiskey was $79,885 with every option. There's no inflation, but it's about 5 times that price right now. I flew out to Afton, Wyoming. I was dumb enough to pick it up on an Easter Sunday. This is before GPS, before any instruments, really. And I had a VFR chart, and I flew the airplane back. It had an hour and a half worth of fuel, and I learned how to fly it myself on the way home. That was the real start of my aerobatic career. Within a short time after that, I was at Unlimited. I went to a bunch of airplanes, and I got sponsored by Extra Aircraft, and I flew in the World Championship in 2000. I made the U.S. team in '99. It's the custom-built aircraft that was made for me then. It's a Zip away, the same one I have now. Years later, I still have the same passion for flying. I'm a DPE, the examiner for the FAA. I do flight tests on behalf of the FAA. I chose this path to pursue my passion in passing the art of flying to the next generation. I felt that the newer generations of pilots are really losing the art of stick and rudder flying, and they're replacing it with computers and regulations. I've decided to stretch the rules. FAA might not like it, but too bad. When I give a flight test and I'm done with the passing check ride, I always take the time to pass them in another airport. It's done every time it takes to put back in what I think flying is missing today. I do have a quick funny story that took place yesterday that I'm just going to share quickly, not wasting time. But one of the worst check rides of my life was when I was 18. I took a CFI ride, flight instructor ride, with the FAA DPE, and his name was Johnny Bosco. And I met him in Alpha Area Republic Airport. And Johnny met me at, I believe it was about 5:45 in the morning. Sun wasn't even up yet. I was standing on the side, a little kid, next to my car. He pulls up. He was a Navy guy, incredible pilot. And he walks up to me and he goes, "Are you Dave Windmiller?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I hate giving check rides for CFIs especially, and I really hate giving them to young punk little kids like you." I was like, "Oh boy, this is not good." Well, the ride lasted the whole day. It was in 3 different aircraft. It ended in a Cardinal RG 34069. Still remember the end. I'm sorry, 52823. Still remember the end number. And the ride ended over Fire Island, and it was almost dark. And he busted my chops in every way he could. Pulled the mixture. And he said, "What would you do?" We were like 3,000 feet. And I said, "I don't know, land on the beach." He goes, "Okay." I said, "Honestly, we probably make Bayport." He goes, "Okay." So I started heading towards Bayport. And I figured he's going to let me get to the position where he knows I'm going to make the runway. Nope. So I have to land the airplane. So I'm on downwind for Bayport. We're landing to the south. At that time, it was a left-hand pattern. Now it's a right-hand pattern. And I go to put the gear down. And he slaps my hand. He goes, "No electrical system." I was like, "Oh, God." To this airplane, you shut the master off, pull the breaker. So this airplane, you put the gear down, you have to sit there with this pump, and you pump it, I don't know, 30, 40 times to get the gear down. And I turn base, and I turn final, and I land dead stick, prop stop. Middle of the field, he goes, "Start it up, I'm tired, get me home." So I take him home, and park the airplane. It wasn't until after the airplane was parked, it's already pitch black, and he says, "I guess I gotta give you a license." Well, the reason I told this story is yesterday I'm an examiner. And I'm on my way up to an airplane with a prospective student, applicant. And on the way out, I actually drove him out to Echo Area Republic, and we're heading out to the airplane. And he goes, "You know, my grandfather was an examiner." "Really? Okay. What's your name?" He goes, "Johnny Bosco." Thank you everyone for coming. Sorry it's an emotional moment for me, but I really want to call up 6 of the greatest people in the world, and I mean that. And my wife Tammy, my oldest son Matthew, next in line Robbie, Michael, my only daughter Ryan, and my little guy Jack.
Last but certainly not least, our last honoree today is Daniel Shabonko. Born in Hempstead, Dan's father was the foreman of the paint shop at Grumman. Dan received a BA in civil engineering, and after serving as an officer in the Army Corps of Engineers, he went to work at Grumman. For the next 25 years, Dan served there as a structural engineer and project manager from the 1950s into the 1970s. While still at Grumman in 1971, he founded his own firm, GSE Dynamics, in order to produce better quality parts as a subcontractor, specializing in composites and complex structural assemblies for major aerospace companies. Dan left Grumman in 1978, and he steadily developed GSE into a respected aerospace and defense firm, which helped build a sustainable aerospace industry on Long Island, now able to compete nationally for business. It has been reported that Dan's employees always knew when the company won a new contract, as he would play the William Tell Overture over the PA system. Dan continued to grow the business up until his last days, working with his daughter Ann, now the company's CEO. Dan passed away in 2019 at the age of 86, and coming up to say a few words is his daughter.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
That's good. They gave me a few seconds to get my composure. I have to say congratulations to the two first inductees. I enjoyed your words. I dressed up as Neil Armstrong for Halloween one year, so you know, there's that connection. And you, thank you so much, David, for your story. I felt the passion, and I thank you for that. So when I first arrived, I actually said to my family, you know, I'm always a hugger. I'm not sure this is a big event, a lot of people. I'm not sure I can, and I started hugging everyone. So thank you to everybody for being here today and for being able to hug one another again. It's really a special way. So my dad passed in October of 19, and Andy and I did start speaking about my dad being inducted into the Hall of Fame prior to my dad's passing. And now I realize it was a gift to have lost him when we did, before 2020 hit. We're able to honor an amazing man with amazing people, and it was just a very special time. And that being said, now we are here on June 29th to honor him, and today is my mom's birthday, who we lost in 1989. So really a very symbolic event to be really honoring both my parents on this day. So thank you for giving me, whether that was you know, planned, not planned. It's very special to me, so I thank you for that. In addition to, so we were not able to honor him in 2020, we're honoring him here in 2021. And it is also the 50th anniversary of the company. So again, more symbolism about dates and memorable moments. So as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of GSE Dynamics, we celebrate my parents. I'm going to use my mom's words to describe them, which she wrote in the anniversary card, April of 1971, which was when he was deciding to open GSE full-time and really go for it. And she was very pregnant because she was about to give birth to me on May 8th, 1971. And she wrote, "Whatever happens, I still have the utmost faith in you. I always will. I would say there aren't many men with the integrity and guts that you possess." And I read the words of my mom on this special day, and it is the epitome of who my father was. Integrity, passion, risk-taking. Someone mentioned risk in the beginning. This man was home with my mom and 5 children, and he had just the guts, as my mom put it in words, to do what he wanted to do. He was passionate. Grumman gave him the foundation to believe in his dream. Long Island provided him with an amazing workforce, which I want to thank you to my workforce now, GSE Dynamics, thank you. an amazing experience. Donna, my sister, is here. Donna, thank you for joining today with me. We were talking earlier to some of the reporters. It was his whole demeanor, right? You talk about passion, right? That's a common theme among the three being inducted today. And as I look at my 4 sons who are sitting right over here, right? How do we tell the story? How do we continue to tell these amazing stories and continue the legacy of not just the walls and the floors and the tables and the fine food that we're eating at the Cradle of Aviation, but how do we really continue to tell the story of the cradle of aviation, which is Long Island, right? So I have to look right at you. I'm sorry. These amazing companies that are on Long Island and the parents that we both share and we all share, just an amazing generation of people. And it is really my hope, a burden that I am loving to have on my shoulders is how do we continue to tell the story of these amazing people that are being inducted into the Hall of Fame. So I thank you, every one of you, for being here. Virtual hugs, real hugs. But I hope your message and what you're hearing when you leave here is that these 3 inductees are people of passion, people who love taking everyone on the journey with them. It wasn't, I think, about the individual journey, by the way I see you hug your family. It is the journey that they take and they really do, they envelop everybody in the passion. And I hope that you go away feeling the passion that these 3 honorees definitely felt. I know my mom and dad are here, I have no doubt, and are looking down thrilled at the love that I'm able to share with all of you. So that being said, we are celebrating 50 years. Andy, if you could come up here. This is our point for celebrating 50 years of quality, integrity, and leadership. It is a challenge point that is very familiar in the military world. So. Thank you so much, everyone. Again, my friends and family, and cheers, everyone. Raise a glass to the 3 inductees, is what I say. Cheers.
Andy.
Well, that concludes our luncheon this year. We hope you had a good time. We hope you remember October 13th is the next time. There'll be other events, but the next big time you can come back and enjoy the evening here at the Cradle, where we honor Stuart Steves of LaGuardia Gateway Partners and the crew of Apollo 13. We do really, really want to thank you all for being here. This is very important because I think it pushes us all to do normal things again. And we picked this date a couple of months ago, and a lot of people said, aren't you taking a risk? And we figured you got to put a stake in the ground, which we did. And now moving forward, no more masks. Have a great summer.
See you later.